Hey there, and welcome to Business Over Cocktails. I'm Lauren Najar, your host and hype woman, bringing you real talk about entrepreneurship. This is the podcast where we dive into the bold whys, the messy middles, and the game-changing aha moments that lead to success. You'll hear unfiltered stories from entrepreneurs, plus bite-sized solo episodes inside the Business Chaser series, where we cut through the noise and get straight to what actually drives sales, visibility, and growth. So whether you're here to get fired up or finally feel seen in your business journey, pull up a seat, pour your favorite drink, and let's have a real conversation. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Business Over Cocktails. I am Lauren Najar, your host of this podcast. And today we have a special rendition. Usually I do a solo episode after so many, guest episodes, but I also wanted to do a fun, I guess in my opinion, it's fun where I'm going to have some of my business friends still come and interview me. I think that those episodes that we had at the beginning of this podcast, those were really fun to do. They were things that people really wanted to know about me, and I got to tell my story. So I have asked Logan here to come on and interview me. And just so you know, I have no idea what we're talking about today, and I truly mean that. Logan actually messaged me last week. She's like, do you want to see the questions, or do you want to know what we're going to talk about? I'm like, no, I trust you. But we have Logan Montague here today, and she told me that I can introduce her however I see her as. So one of the things, though, I think that has been central in her brand is she's your business BFF. She specializes in marketing and social media marketing and all things marketing and scaling your business. And I think that really encompasses everything. So welcome, Logan. Thank you for doing this.
Thank you. Thank you for having me back. I loved our last episode together, and I'm so excited to come back and interview you. I have fun questions planned.
Okay.
Kind of a variety too, so.
I love it. And I will put this disclaimer out there too, because when I was starting the podcast, some of the episodes I have actually done from questions people have asked me. So I actually have an episode coming out soon. So we're recording this in October. This episode's probably going to air in December. I have an episode coming out next week, I believe. So the end of October, where they are actually questions that people submitted. So one of them was how, as a mom, how do I manage my week? And then another, I think the Business Chaser was how do I overcome sales objections? And people really wanted to know those. I have a list still of some of the questions that some people asked, which I love doing that. So I want to say that if you ever have a question, and this goes for the guests too, if you ever have a follow-up question or want to know something, please message me either at Lauren Najar or at Business Over Cocktails. And I might just feature it in either a Business Chaser episode if it's short and sweet, or if it's something that you really wanted me to dig deeper on, we can do a longer episode on it. So I'll either do that in a solo episode or a Business Chaser episode. So just so everyone knows. But I'm just going to let Logan kind of take it away because, again, I have no idea what we're talking about today, and I'm excited for these questions.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm a little nervous now.
No, honestly, they're not bad questions at all. These are actually, I think, things that I know I'm interested in of just, you and I have been working together for so long, and I obviously come to you for advice and lots of questions. But there's things that I think that even as I was thinking, I was like, oh, we've never really talked about that in business and how you do certain things. So I don't know. I'm curious, and I think it'll be helpful for other people too, I hope. So and maybe some random fun things in here as well, because, things just always come up.
Yeah.
So yeah. Okay, well, let's dive in. So that I love my systems. I never used to like systems. I was very anti-systems. And then over the years, I've kind of evolved into now I'm a systems, I don't want to say freak, but I love having systems to keep projects streamlined and all of that. So my question for you to get started is, what kind of systems do you use in your business that are absolutely 100% necessary? And then what kind of systems do you kind of just go with the flow on? I know people who are oh, I keep my, project management stuff in my Notes app or everything, which honestly, I am a systems person and I still use my Notes app a lot. I'm just curious, what kind of systems, because you have so much going on in your business. You have the Social Savvy Society, you have your coaching business, you have your marketing agency, you have your retreats and events. How do you keep everything organized with you using systems?
I think so. I will say, just to dispel system, right? I think in case people don't know this, system doesn't just mean like project management tool, right? It's like a system to make your life easier, regardless of what that system is. So I'm going to start there, and I'm going to say that it's so interesting that I've heard people talk about their notes app. I've just never been a notes app person. I think it's so annoying, or even like reminders on the phone. Maybe I don't know how to set it up correctly. I find that the notifications on a phone are so annoying. So, as far as like systems go, I will say that if I need to remind myself of something or put a task on a list or have a to-do list, I don't like have notes, have emails, have this, have note, I don't have it all in one space. I try to keep it all symmetrical. I don't know if that's a good word to do that, but if I am like on the go, if I'm not by my computer, I immediately email myself because I know that I'm not going to forget, instead of like putting it in the notes app or putting it on a piece of paper that I'm going to lose. So I will say, to streamline anything in my business is everything goes in my email, because I then operate out of my email. And then when I'm looking at my email, I have different folders. So I have like ones that are starred or things I need to get to, and then I kind of sort certain things for other reasons. But my favorite thing that I do, my favorite tool, I guess, that I use for systems then is ClickUp. So ClickUp is my project management tool, where then I have different things for everything in my business. And I'm honestly right now in the process of getting my husband on there to do personal stuff and like budget, events, keeping our insurances in there, like everything. I want everything in ClickUp. And that is like going to be my Bible, essentially. ClickUp tells me what I need to do. It keeps track of my leads. It keeps track of the dates. It keeps track of content. And then I would then, as far as then onboarding and offboarding, HoneyBook. Like everything that I do, invoicing, contracts, testimonials, everything goes through HoneyBook. I really can't. And so this is a lesson too, like, don't like Venmo, don't like Apple Pay, don't Zelle people. Like, I only take payments through HoneyBook, or then like Flowdesk is attached to Stripe, which I have to deal with that, but HoneyBook for sure. The other thing though, to answer your other question of like what system do I kind of just like meh, whatever, content. And I think that's a big one. I usually write my content the day of, and I've always been like that. And I think that some people, maybe not so much anymore because they've been more honest about it, but I feel like people used to expect me that I plan it out all in a month's time. And I think that I do have weeks where I will, on a Monday, create what I'm going to post throughout the week. So I will say it's not all the time am I like creating content the day of. I am creating content usually on the fly, but there have been weeks even recently where I've created like either 14 days ahead of time, or like if I'm launching something, I really want to focus on like what buckets I'm hitting. To your point, I'm in the process of offboarding a lot of tasks when it comes to my other brand. So like the retreat, the podcast, and I am going to have someone start posting for me, but I'm still going to be creating the content. In order for that system to work though, I need to prep the content in advance. And so that is a system that I'm building with this other person, so then they can go in and post for me every single day, but also create the graphics and the carousels too, because I honestly hate doing that. I cannot stand doing that. It is very easy for me to just take some B-roll video that I have on my phone, have some text overlay, put a nice little song on there, and that takes me 5 minutes. So I think you may or may not be surprised, but I feel like I've told people that recently about content. Like, I literally just create the content that day. And I think people have been surprised, but that's what's worked for me, because I think that with content, I'm more intuitive. And there's moments where I'm like, I want to say this thing. And so I found myself changing my plan a lot. To then the other point is, I already know what I need to do to create the plan or the strategy. So that in my mind, I'm already like doing it, if that makes sense. But if I really want to focus and I really want to hit a certain goal, I will plan it in advance, at least 14 days.
Yeah. I think that makes so much sense too. I'm the same way. For my personal content, I don't plan it in advance, which people are always surprised because in my agency, when I do social media marketing, I plan client content at least 2 weeks in advance.
Mhm.
So it is a little bit different there. But I think your systems, they sound honestly so simple. And I love that because I feel like even me, for example, as much as I love systems, I have this is something I've been in the process of for a really long time now. And it just, cleaning up 6 years worth of a lot of different softwares and things like that is I feel like I spend so much on software every single month of, yes, I'm sure you have other softwares you're paying for and using outside of these, but your systems just sound so clean. And I love that. And it's very inspiring. And I love what you said about using ClickUp as kind of like your hub for everything in your life. And that kind of leads me into actually, some of your answers led me into a couple of my questions, but we'll get into it. So when you think about your systems that you have in your business and how does that go into your life or what is the importance? I know one thing that you talk a lot about is that one, on Fridays you're off because you're with your daughter, and in the mornings, those are kind of like your mornings. Those are kind of your day. But what are the other kind of like systems that you have in your life that support you being able to do all of these different things in your business? Because obviously you're very busy in your business, and everyone's going to have different seasons where you have to work a little bit more, work a little bit harder because you are so busy. But what are those kind of systems, even if it is like with you and your husband, of how you guys like make sure who's cooking dinner or doing different things? Like, what does that look like for you in terms of life systems that support you having this level of business?
I have to give a shout out to my husband. I don't know if I'm gonna get emotional or not, but so I'm very I guess like going back to like when we started, like when we were together, like I was a very different person. I have grown so much in the 11 years that we've been together. We've been married 9.5 years now, almost 9.5 years. And I think like just to have the foundation that it's been different, that he has supported me, and he kind of was the driving factor of me then going for whatever I wanted to do. And I know that unfortunately, I don't feel like that is normal. I've always kind of looked at that from like he is different, and he knows that. So I will say, like, even to the point like when we started dating, like I didn't cook at all. Like I was just learning how to cook for myself, like, but I wasn't like adventurous. I was always told that like I'm not a good cook, but I was not a good baker. My grandma, my mom, and my sister all enjoy baking. I just don't like baking, and I actually enjoy cooking, and I found out that I'm actually a very good cook. But anyways, to that point is when my daughter was born. When you have a baby that's like less than 7 months old, I feel like around for us 6 to 7 months we started getting on a very normal routine. But like when the baby's younger than that, you're like literally up every 2 hours. There's no semblance of a routine. There's no semblance of like you can try and get in a routine, but it's going to change in a month. It's going to change in 2 months or 3 months. So I will say that like without my husband, I wouldn't be able to do anything, because what happens is we both get up really early. And this is kind of our system. This has been our system for a good year now. Like we both get up early. He gets ready first. As I'm getting ready, like I go and shower and get ready for the day, he is cooking breakfast. And he has been doing that since our daughter was born. He makes breakfast every single morning, makes the same thing every single morning. We eat breakfast together somewhat. And then usually our daughter's still sleeping. I go to the gym at 6:30. He's with her in the morning. And then his mother-in-law comes and watches our daughter for the entire day. So again, very thankful for her as well. I would not be able to do anything if it weren't for either of them. But then for dinner, I've kind of also outsourced that to him. And I've heard that phrase before, outsourcing to your husband. I don't think that I want to explain it, but like I also feel like mentally I've had to do that of like, because I've always been like, oh, what am I cooking for dinner? What are we going to have for dinner? He's been in charge of that and been very consistent with that over the last year as well. Like we always have like, meat delivered. We actually have like, if you've ever heard of Butcher Box, so Butcher Box, we get that once a month. That is all of our quality meats, chicken, beef, bacon, ground beef, whatever. We get all of that delivered to us. So we always have a good stock of meat. We don't have to worry about like, what are we making? And then we always just buy the same vegetables every week. And so we kind of know what we're having. For lunch too, I always just buy grilled chicken, Italian chicken, and I have that every day for lunch. I think my systems get thrown off though when I have events, so I'm not perfect. But yeah, like for my husband and I, like we have a very consistent system. I think it works most of the time. Like there's times where it needs to be adjusted for sure, but at least for me, I like the system. I think that he does too. It allows us to not be reactive to when our daughter's waking up. It makes for a nicer, smoother day. There are times I make dinner too, like, if I have like certain things that he wants and like I'm the one that can make it. So like I'll make it sometimes, but usually he's the one planning it. And so I've kind of outsourced that to him. But I think like the whole idea of me wanting to put all of that stuff in ClickUp too, like that's going to help us both, like with just like even like budget, right? Like I also will say that like I wish like at this point we don't like have like meetings, like family meetings and stuff, or like meet about budget or anything. But that's something that I would love to get to. Just because, again, I think that we're in a space where, again, our daughter is getting older. We're having more of a routine. We have more time to do those kinds of things. So, I mean, I think we're busy. Even in my personal life, we're very busy. But I think that as we can always do better. I think, at least from my mind, I think that I can always do better and have better systems. And I think as she gets older and we get more of a kind of like a solid foundation of how our life goes, like we have this really good morning and evening routine. But I think then overall, like getting back to like focusing on our goals as a family and then being able to like meet about those, like we don't have that yet. So I would love to get back to that and have that. That would be in ClickUp, a ClickUp meeting.
Yeah. I love that. You're inspiring me for that because I recently got engaged and I was single for so long. I was a very independent woman. I had no one else to really like keep me on schedule of making sure that I was working a lot and, having to take care of everything myself. And now that I have someone else with me, it's been really important to kind of like, one, bring him into kind of like my world and how we operate as entrepreneurs, just a little bit different than like a typical 9 to 5 too. And so I kind of established when we moved in together, and now that we're getting married, is every Sunday, well, usually on Sundays, sometimes it's on Saturdays, one day on the weekend, we sit down, we have like a breakfast, we go and get Starbucks or something. We come back home, we open up my computer, and we go through our budget together
Hmm.
every single Sunday. And that I think has been a really good help, especially as we're planning a wedding that's really
Yeah.
expensive.
Yeah.
And just like really setting the foundations for things. And as he's starting to understand like how my income is, because my income is different than a typical 9 to 5 or how his income is. But I love this idea of putting it in ClickUp, and you're inspiring me to like put everything in there. And it's also the reason why I asked this question is because it is something I have also been navigating as I've been in a busier season with business. Like I used to when I was single, I would just like sometimes not eat dinner, or like I would eat dinner
Yeah.
at like 10 o'clock because I didn't have that system for myself of like, oh, you need to stop. But like now I'm worrying about another person. And so we've been really navigating this like, what does that look like? And it is him cooking dinner most of the time
Yeah.
because I'm working, later in this season, and it may not be that way forever too. And so that's why I was curious, like, especially since you've had your daughter and like how those things kind of come into play. I think you find what works for you so that way you can kind of like seemingly, do it all, you
Yeah.
know? So I think that that's just a really interesting point. You also mentioned that you guys eat the same thing for breakfast every single day. I'm the same way. And I've heard that, they say, I don't know who it is, but like some of the like, I don't know if it's like Jeff Bezos or someone that wears the same outfit every single day
Mm.
or something, has like the same thing because one less thought that you have to, or decision you have to make, it becomes easier. What's your kind of philosophy around that, either in business or in life, or just like that, just eliminating that kind of decision fatigue to continue to move things forward?
I think you hit on it earlier, right? It's simplification. So, like, that's why I have simple systems. I am a tech person. I love tech. I feel like growing up, I was always playing video games. I'm the oldest in my family, but my sister is only 14 months younger than me. So I wasn't older by any means, like super older than my siblings, but I was always the one figuring out how to work the video games, the computer, showing my parents how to do it. Like, I love doing that stuff. I liked playing outside. I was active, but like I would be inside on a summer day playing The Sims for 8 hours. Like I loved video games. I loved computer games, typing. I was always very good at keyboard class and typing and speed and stuff like that. I love all of that stuff. I love spreadsheets. I love Microsoft Excel. So I've been techie, but the thought of not only paying for a bunch of systems, but then figuring out systems, and I feel like I can never find something that fits everything that I need. And I found that, like, for instance, ClickUp answers that question for me of like, it can be customized as much as you want to spend time on it. And it works with a lot of different programs that I need. So HoneyBook, and then I use Flowdesk. So like truly if I look at like my tech stack, it's not very high. Now I have more tech because now I have a podcast. But otherwise, those were my three main ones I would sign into every day because I think like simplification is the answer. To your point then of like decision fatigue, I think that's the biggest thing why I felt I needed to outsource that to my husband. It's like the only thing that I need, him to figure out is just like the protein even. Like it doesn't even need to be something fancy. Like we have, we'll get marinades and we have a bunch of seasonings. Like we literally can think of things on the fly or I'll go to ChatGPT and be like, what should I make for dinner today? And like, I have this, and this, and like, we just make it and it's fine. But we always have our protein ready, right? Like we're never having to go to the store and buy that stuff. It is delivered to our house. That has gotten easier though, because again, now my daughter's 2 years old. She eats literally everything we eat. And we did that with her since like the time she was starting food, we would give her the same foods kind of, but obviously she wasn't eating like the same exact foods we could, right? Now she's getting to the point where she can have the various seasonings and she's been introduced to everything. And my girl's bougie, by the way. She eats steak and salmon. She prefers that versus like grilled cheese and chicken tenders. She prefers steak and salmon. But anyways.
You teaching her young. Like
good food. Like we actually went out to a fancy steak dinner the other day. We took like a little family vacation. We went to a steak dinner like that was near us when we got home. And like the kids' menus suck. At every restaurant ever in the history of everyone, if you want your kid to eat healthy at a restaurant, it's just not going to happen. You have to give them like an adult entree. They have mac and cheese, chicken tenders, grilled cheese, and like she doesn't like any of that. Like she'll eat it, but like she prefers meat. So yeah, she was having some of our steak. I'm like, man, I'll just split my steak with her. That's fine. But anyways, so I think like the simplification, and even if like, say for instance, like my husband wasn't doing that, then I would just have a list and I'd be like, okay, Monday we're going to have steak. Tuesday we're going to have ground beef. Wednesday, and like not even worrying about the recipes. Like then I can just at the moment be like, what recipe do I need to make right now? Because we have everything. I actually know someone who does that because like I've never been one to meal prep. I hate eating the same thing over and over again. So like I have to have subtle tweaks to things. Like I mentioned how I have grilled chicken every day, but like sometimes I have it with soy sauce. Sometimes I make like cauliflower rice with it, make like an Asian bowl. Sometimes I use buffalo sauce. Like so I have a different vegetable. Like I can't eat the same thing every day. I've never been a meal prep person. I hate it. I can't stand it. I don't make time for meal prepping. But someone that I know here locally is a fitness coach. She actually prepares her protein for the week. And I'm like, oh, that's a good idea and that's kind of what we do. It's not, I guess, not cooked, but a lot of times we'll have that protein already. We can just make whatever recipe we want. So I agree with whoever said, like, with decision fatigue, you wear the same thing every day. I don't think I can do that, but eating the same thing every day, especially like as a busy entrepreneur and like we have so much stress that like the least we could be doing is feeding ourselves good food. So like without even having to think about it, like I have grilled chicken that's already pre-made and I can just eat it. Or then thinking of like the healthy, good proteins you can have for dinner, for instance. Sleep is a different story and we can get into that, but like I am definitely not the best sleeper. I definitely stay up too late most nights. That's something I can work on to be better about as well. But yeah, simplification, I would say across the board. The less decisions you have to make, the easier it is.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I think that's great. I do have one question to follow up on that is you kind of are hinting at this at the end so do you agree that your health, the way you treat your body and the way your health impacts your business?
1,000,000,000,000%.
I know you have, kind of like a pretty good like gym routine and it sounds like in like your eating style and whatnot. And I know you mentioned like the sleep thing could use some work, but I know for me personally, I have always said it's a really weird thing, but let me know if this is true for you. I know that when I am taking care of my body, mentally, physically, all of the things, my business runs smoother and I'm making more money. I have also made more money in the past where I'm not taking care of my body, though, but things are not running smoothly, where I can make more, but I am not operating in a place where I can actually hold that amount of money for long term.
Yeah, I've been there. The very first time I was making like the most money in my business, I think when I hit like, say, like my first $10,000 month. And then I proceeded to hit like, 10, 11, 12, whatever, that range of money in the preceding next months. I was very stressed. I was ordering Uber Eats every day. I was spending $60 for dinner every single day for like people to deliver food to me that was like, of course, not the healthiest, right? I was not getting like, nice protein bowls. I was getting like burgers and fries or like chicken and fried chicken or whatever it is, ramen, like very sodium based things. And I think I've said this in an episode before, but like Uber Eats would pop up on my phone every day, 4:45 p.m. and I'd be at my desk and like, hey, what do you want to order today? Plus I lived in Chicago too. So it was just like, I could literally order anything that I wanted every single day, whatever cuisine I wanted. So I definitely agree with that. Also too, so I was just recently in New York and one of the speakers there was Dr. Kristen Holmes, and she is the top performance engineer at not Aura Ring. I'm going to get this wrong. What is the other one? What's the other wearable one? I have to look this up. I'm going to look it up really quick. She talks about sleep debt and how big Whoop, the Whoop. Okay. So we heard her speak and she talks about like she as a person, she will, if she travels to like London or like in a different time zone than what she's used to in her body, she keeps herself on the same sleep cycle. So no matter what, sleep comes first for her because, and she even like reiterated this, is like your sleep debt does not just affect you, it affects everyone around you. And there have been studies that have been done around money that you make, employee morale, and how not only when you struggle with sleep or like you show up like cranky and tired, like it affects your money, it affects your revenue, it affects your performance, and affects those around you because the relationships around you suffer because you're stressed and cranky and all the things. So like she said that even if like, I don't know where she lives, but she was going to London, I think like a couple weeks after we heard her speak, and she was talking about how she will sleep until like 11 a.m. She does not take then morning calls, doesn't meet anyone in the morning. She wakes up at 11 a.m., does her same routine. And then like most of her meetings then are like dinner meetings because then that's when she can meet up with people or lunchtime or something along those lines. So she even mentioned like she was going to Singapore this year as well. And she was going to still like keep on the same cycle. So as much as she could. So I thought that was so interesting, and that makes a lot of sense because, of course, like when we travel, we have jet lag, and that takes forever to catch up, a few days or so, and interrupts our routine. But I do agree, and I see that, and I think that I'm trying my best to like, obviously not only am I working until I go to sleep. So say like on the days like we work, there still has to be unwind time. And like immediately, like if I'm going to fall asleep after I'm working, like that's not going to be a good night's sleep either, regardless if I get 7, 8 hours of sleep. So like there has to be unplugging time, unwinding time too. So I definitely feel like the sleep thing is underrated. And it was just so interesting to hear her speak. So she has her own Instagram, but the Whoop sounds really cool too. I'm more familiar with the Aura Ring, but Whoop also does something similar, and it's like goes on your wrist versus a ring.
Yeah, I've heard about it. It seems really cool. And that makes so much sense. I know for me, when I started not sleeping in on the weekends and I started kind of waking up, I would say maybe in the weekends, instead of waking up at like 6 or 6:30, I might sleep until like 7:30. But it maybe also because I probably go to bed like an hour later on the weekends. But for the most part, I'm not sleeping in until 9, 10 o'clock like I used to anymore, or even 8. I feel like my sleep quality is so much better when I have generally the same routine 7 days a week.
Yeah.
Like, do you still wake up at 5:30 in the morning on the weekends?
Yes. And I was like you, like I never used to. That is because of my daughter and like, again, feeling like and not because she wakes up that early. She doesn't, I mean, she used to, but like she doesn't really do that. And if she does, that something's probably wrong or she's sick or something. But I feel like that was just like the ultimate hack. And like it makes so much sense. Like, I would feel like crap over the weekend because even if I was sleeping in and then like, okay, I would stay up late. Like I would go out Friday night or Saturday night, we'd go out and I would also stay up until like midnight on a normal day, 1 a.m. on a normal day. And then I would sleep until 8 a.m., sometimes then stay in bed till 9 a.m. And this is like right before I was pregnant. So like 3 years ago, maybe like 3.5 years ago now. So it wasn't that long ago I was doing that. And so I think like that's just like, I don't know why that never made sense to me, but it makes sense. Like, of course you want to wake up the same time every day because then it just makes it easier for you to wake up early every single day. Because if I'm just then going to sleep 12 hours on the weekend, like my body's going to struggle waking up on Monday morning at 5:30. So yeah, I try to keep the same bedtime routine. Obviously, that's not perfect. I'm not like strict. I like to go out with my friends every once in a while and we'll stay out till 10 or 11 a.m. But guess what? I'm still waking up at 5:30 or maybe 5:45. I'll let myself sleep until 5:40.
Yeah. No, I get that. I feel like that's how I used to be too. And when I changed that, it changed everything for me. It really made it. And I have, a lot of like friends or family where they're like, oh no, the weekend is like time to sleep in. And I'm like, that's great for you, but I can't. Then like Sunday night, can't go to sleep. Even my fiance, for example, he wakes up at 4 o'clock every single day during the week. So on the weekends, like 4 o'clock is a little early to get up. So he normally by like 6 though is awake. But even that hour and a half of sleeping in, Sunday nights, he can never fall asleep because he slept in until
Yeah.
6, even though that's not sleeping in. But when he needs to be in bed by like 8:30 to wake up at 4 a.m., it's like 10 o'clock and he's like, I'm just now getting tired.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and then Mondays, it's just a bad cycle every single week. And it's like, that's something even we've been trying to work through because it's like, well, what are you going to do if you wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning on a Sunday? I mean, you can, but it's, like I think 6 o'clock is okay, but
Yeah.
then it is a hard cycle.
Mm-hmm.
So, but yeah, I think that's interesting. So, okay, well, I have one last question for you. So, I know we've talked a lot about as you've been growing your businesses and bringing on help, is when do you decide that you need to outsource something? And you've also kind of talked about it in your life too, like you're outsourcing things to your husband, or I know people even will be like, oh, I decided to outsource cleaning, to a cleaner or something. Like, when do you decide in your life or your business that it is time to outsource something? Whether that be like you need to hire someone on your team, whether that's you need to ask for more help, like what does that look like for you?
When I realize I'm the bottleneck, and I will say that that is a more advanced feeling. That's not something I used to think of. Like, I think I'm very aware now of when I'm the bottleneck in my own business versus, like, I think before, like, I was always taught it's like, if you have more tasks than you have time for, then you should have outsourced a long time ago. And I just don't think I was ever really I was never coached on that because and not to the discredit of the other coaches I had, it's just like they also didn't really have large teams either. And so I kind of had to like learn that on my own because yes, I understand that. Like if you are barely keeping your head above water, are you actually that busy? Or are you just lacking time management? Are you lacking systems? And should you even be spending time doing these tasks? I struggle a lot of times with like, of course, there's a million projects I want to do in addition to the ones I'm already doing. But I also have to be realistic of like, is this going to make me money or take away from making money in my business? Because at the end of the day, I have to make money. We all have to make money. We're making money in our businesses and that's what it thrives as. And so like if, I focus on like what absolutely needs to get done. And if I find that those things aren't even getting done, I not only will have to audit my time of where it's being spent, and a lot of times, at least this past year, it's been going to events and spending time outside of the house when in the first 6 years of my business, I never did that. I was always at home. So I really have to really focus on like not only where I'm spending my time, but like, okay, am I really spending my time and I'm doing this work and I'm obligated to do some of this work or I'm contracted to do this work and I've just taken way too much on. So do I actually need to hire someone or do I need a better system? And as far as like our conversation today, we've talked a lot about systems. I think like people overlook the system part too, where there could be a lot better ways for you to maybe optimize a system versus then hiring someone. But I do feel like this was the first year I actually hired or understood that, oh yeah, I want to hire based on where I want to go. And I think that's the biggest thing that you need to learn about your business. It's like, it's not about hiring because I have so much to do. So like I said, audit yourself. Where are you spending your most time? Are you absolutely the bottleneck in your business and you're preventing yourself from like growing and doing your income activities? And is it activities that you actually need to spend time on? Okay, fine. Then maybe you need some help, but then you also need to focus on what is your vision for your business and who do you need to hire to help you go that way. And so like this year is the first time, I think this is the most I've ever paid a contractor in my business is I hired a podcast manager. And this is like really the first time I've ever hired an expert. Well, I have a bookkeeper, but I don't pay her that much as this podcast manager. And this podcast manager, like she's the expert in her field, right? And it's not, a virtual assistant where I have to like show them how to use the software and how to edit and do all those things. Like she knows how to do it. So like, yes, I want the podcast to grow. I want it to do really well. And I am not the person equipped to do that because that is a full-time job on its own. So I'm going to hire this person to help me grow the podcast because I have a future vision for it. So hopefully that answers your question.
Yeah, I think that's great. Great insight too, because I think that is a struggle that I know I've had in the past of hiring. I think a lot of people have it. A lot of people I talk to, it's like almost feeling so overwhelmed with work that they're like, I just need help versus having the right people in place behind your business that things are actually going to be moving forward. And I know when I've, been in a place, I'm actually even hiring right now and I've been trying to decide, okay, what's the right role? Because it's like, where am I spending my time that maybe I shouldn't be? And where am I trying to go that maybe someone else can do it better than me? So I think that there's a lot of different factors there, but I really like the way you laid that out of how you have also kind of like even with your systems, like kept your team, like it seems like pretty lean, pretty simple of the way you think about bringing people on. Because,
Yeah.
Bringing people on, it can be expensive. Sometimes, have you ever, I guess I have one more follow-up question. I know I said that was my last question, but one follow-up question to that is, have you ever had a time where you're like, I would love to do this project or bring on this client, to your marketing agency or something, but you know that in order to accomplish that project or work with that client, you would have to bring on someone else that maybe you would be managing and spending a lot of time and money paying someone else to do it. So you have to say no?
No, that's never happened
No?
because I always have people waiting in the wings essentially that I want to work with. I have 2 people that I've worked with now for almost 3 years that I've outsourced or contracted them to come on and they come on as my team and I kind of know what their pricing is. So when I put the proposal to the client, I know how much I'm going to pay them. And again, I've been with them for a while, but I've had various contractors over the years or just people that have worked for me that have come and gone. But if it's something outside of the scope, which we do a lot in our agency, we do pretty much all digital marketing. I'm trying to see like branding, for instance. I would completely outsource that. Even though that is someone on my team that can do that, they would manage that client on their own. That is a very expensive project that is completely different than what we're doing or like website builds. Yes, you can come to me for that, but that's not going to be me communicating with you, if that makes sense. Now, if it's like email marketing, that has to do with like some of the marketing that I do. Yes, I want to be in the know for the branding and the website, but like they are managing that separately. That is a separate project than what I'm trying to do. So I guess like maybe then I've been fortunate with knowing people and like that have the ability to do all of those things. And then I can do a big handful of those things too. But yeah, I've never turned down a client in that
That's
way.
awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's so cool. Well, this has been really fun interviewing you. I've had a lot of fun. I've gained a lot of insight about things that, I don't know, we've just never really talked about before, that it's kind of cool to kind of see behind the scenes a little bit of what works in your life and your business as you're doing so much. It's really cool.
Well, thank you for interviewing me. I had fun answering these questions. I'm going to do more of these. So
Yeah,
thank
you
you.
should. These are so fun.
Well, thank you everyone for listening. I will include Logan's contact info in the show notes so you can connect with her. But thank you for listening, and I will be back. I will do a solo episode of a Business Chaser episode this Friday, and make sure to tune in for that. Bye. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Business Over Cocktails. where real stories and bold business moves come to life. If this episode lit something up in you, share it with a friend, tag me at Lauren Najar or the podcast page at Business Over Cocktails. Make sure to leave a quick review as well. It helps more than you know. Until next time, keep chasing what matters and building the business that feels like you. Cheers!